this older gentleman come into my study when I was still able to go to the prison before COVID. And he just sat in the back and cried. He'd open up his Bible, he'd follow along, but he barely raised his head and he never said a word. And at the end of the first study, I asked him if there was anything that I could do for him, and he said, "There's nothing anybody could do for me." And so every time that he came in, I just tried to encourage him. I told him I was glad to see him, and I knew that Jesus loved him. And eventually, this man felt comfortable enough with me to open up about his past. And without getting into any details, it was dark. And that darkness just led to more darkness in his life, which landed him there in prison. He felt like he was too dirty for Jesus. And during that time, we just happened to be going through the book of Mark, and we came to Mark chapter 1 and verse 40, where this leper came running to Jesus, getting on his knees and pleading with him. He said, "If you are willing, you can make me clean." And Jesus, being moved with compassion for this man, stretched out his hand and touched him and said to him, "I am willing, be cleansed." Jesus was not only willing to cleanse this man, but he was willing to do something that nobody else was, to reach out and to touch him in order to heal him. And so lepers were put in colonies outside of the city, and people would literally go the long way around just to try to avoid coming into contact with them. And so that man came up to me after our study and he said, "You see, I'm the leper." And I said, "You see what Jesus was willing to do, how he was willing to reach out and touch him. That's the same Jesus that sat at a Pharisee's table and allowed a sinful woman, possibly a prostitute, to come and drench his feet with her tears and to dry them off with her hair. And while everybody else at the table was thinking, if he really was the Messiah, then he would know what this woman has done and he would not let her touch him." And so do you feel too dirty? If you don't, I think you'd be surprised on how many people who do. But if that's you, I want to encourage you to put yourself in these stories. I don't think that we can understand the magnitude of these stories until we understand that he's talking about us and what he wants to do for us. And really, the story of the prodigal son is all of our stories. That's us. We've wasted our inheritance on ourselves and on our prodigal living, and we're sin sick and stinky and starving, sitting at the trough. And if we just could come out of our stupor and come to ourselves and see our need and go to Jesus, he is willing and ready to run to us and embrace us. He's watching that road afar off. He wants to celebrate with us. Not so that we can continue to wallow in our sins, but so that we could be freed from them and we can be embraced as his child.